Good morning, everyone. It's Lindsey Huddleston back in the building with another SPS Monday Motivation. Hope you had a great weekend. I had a great weekend. Spent time with my daughter. She had been gone for a week away at camp, and prayers to people in Texas and that massive flooding. You know, sometimes we gotta count our blessings. I mean, my daughter went away to camp, came home, no big deal. But some children went away to camp and they haven't come home. So it gives you more perspective in this world when we want to have things, do things, and make things happen. But just to keep perspective, that somewhat impacts today's topic, which is give yourself some grace. That's right. Give yourself a little bit of grace, folks, because I know how it is out here. We can be going hard in the paint trying to get things done and can be our hardest critic, so hard on ourselves. But grace is important. Now, the interesting thing is that in most cases, we give more grace to others than we will with ourselves. And this Monday motivation, as I say, always either comes from the headlines of my personal experience. Had some time a couple of weeks ago to spend some time with one of my good frat brothers. I won't mention his name. It's out of respect for him, but he knows who he is and had some good conversation, a good dialogue, and we talk about this. And he, just like many of us, was really, could get down on himself about things. Very well accomplished, very talented, but we had to have this conversation about giving yourself some grace. And it's almost like you got to give yourself the same grace you give other people. Now, when it comes down to giving other people grace, oh boy, hallelujah. We do that all the time. But that's what I want to talk about today, giving yourself the same grace that you would give others, right? Be kind to yourself. You're doing the best you can. Now, this is not a cop out. We'll talk about that a little bit more. But I want to talk about what they call the grace gap, the grace gap. And that is, we often show patience and understanding and encouragement to others, patience with each other, understanding and encouragement to others. Who are these people? Teammates at work, family and friends. We give them all kind of grace, right? You talk to them, you say it's going to be all right. But what do? We forget to extend the same grace to ourselves. It's as if everybody else is so worthy of grace, and particularly your grace, but you are not. What is grace? Grace has a lot of different components to it, right? Grace is compassion without judgment, space to learn and grow, encouragement through failure, and support, not shame. Yeah, when you talk to your coworker, talk to a friend or a family member, you can be compassionate without judging them. You can give them some space to learn and grow. You can encourage them throughout their failures, and you can support them without shame. But when it comes to yourself, we won't do that. And that's what this message is all about. You deserve the same care you give to others. You deserve that. And let me just add this part. Grace does not equal excuses. And I think that's the part that gets us caught up. I want to emphasize that for a moment. Grace does not equal excuses. Just because you're giving yourself grace doesn't mean you're letting yourself off the hook. And what do we hear all the time by people who are motivated? I'm just so hard on myself. Yeah, I understand, but it can be unrealistic. This grace that you are not willing to give yourself. Show yourself some grace is not avoiding accountability. It's not letting go of your goals. I got to emphasize that point. When I was putting this together, I said, this is the part where I really have to emphasize. Showing yourself some grace is not saying, I'm not going to be accountable, right? It's not giving up on your goals and letting go of your goals. Who we have right here? Good morning. We got Michelle Mimi Watkins. Good morning to you. I hope you're doing well. Hope you had a good weekend. Had a great weekend. And we're talking about giving yourself some grace. Michelle, I know you're a very well accomplished woman. And I know you deal with all types, from the corporate types to the coaches and the athletes that you deal with, and want to talk about being able to give yourself the same grace. Now, you're on the list of people I would not want to cross, but I also know you've always been someone that's been very grateful. Got another good brother up here. Carl Blackshear is my brother from another. Good morning, fam. Grand Rising, fam, to you, man. Hey, talking about giving yourself some grace. The same grace you give others. Carl is known for being a very passionate, but yet very much an individual who can give and extend grace to others. Very wise individual, somebody I call upon to get his wisdom. But you got to better give yourself that same grace. Carl, I know you know what I'm talking about when I'm talking about, hey, give myself a little bit of grace just as well. We got to keep that in mind, brother. Also, too, it is allowing setbacks without self-blame and staying committed while being human. See, that's grace too. You can have a setback. Something can happen the way you didn't want it to, and you I got to fix this. I got to tweak this. That's okay. And staying committed while being human. It's just only being human, Got David Eric Hodge, got family in here, the cousin this morning, cuz. It's a great message for young professionals. You're absolutely right. Young professionals indeed, giving yourself some grace. Because hey, you go around in the office or with your work crew or wherever, hey man, it's cool, we working out. But you want to beat yourself like the old, medieval times, you know what I'm saying? My brother Carl say 100%, 100%. You know what I'm talking about. This message won't be long, but I want it to be impactful because the reality is this, y'all. Real life happens. I know that may sound like an excuse, but that's a reality. What you planned on doesn't necessarily always happen. And I realize in many cases, I may create a goal for myself that has nothing to do with my ability to make it happen in that time. This has something to do with so many other people going on, but you create this goal or this so quote unquote timeline for things to happen, and you don't have no control over that. So you sitting back, beating yourself up, giving yourself gut punches and whatnot, but you don't have no control on that. So you got to work on giving yourself grace because real life happens. What's that? Sometimes things don't go as planned. Like I said, the missed deadlines, unmet goals, and miscommunication. Those things are a reality. Those things happen. So I want you guys to keep that in mind because instead of self-criticism, ask yourself, what can I learn? How can I move forward? I saw something really good. I happened to be former NFL ball player and a Hall of Famer, Ray Lewis. He talked about when he was dealing with injury. I think his daughter had a sports injury, and he posed a question to her: what are you going to learn during this injury when you come out of it that you better? Instead of self-criticism, what can I learn in this moment? All right, how can I move forward? Instead of saying I'm just going to give myself the blame. No, I said, no. What can I learn in this? How am I going to be better for it? Because here's the reality, and this is the reality we don't like to accept until we're over the hill, over the hump, is that in many cases, you have to have these issues and these challenges happen in your life for you to have an opportunity to grow. Because if not for them, if it's victory happen on the timeline you want, in many cases, who's going to have a timeline for something that's going to stress them out? If you can create your own timeline for an outcome, this could be like boom, 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 boom. We out of here. Nobody creates a timeline. No, I need to stretch this. I need to feel a little pain. I need to feel a little pressure. I need to be stressed a little bit. No, we won't do that for ourselves. But life naturally does that. So when that happens, we realize we're in that space. It's all about how you frame. Okay, what can I learn from this? What can I learn from this perspective? Okay, this situation has happened. How do I reallocate my resources? How do I look at things differently? How do I look at people differently? Not necessarily judge, but help you understand who and what is going on in your life and the impact they have. So that's something to keep in mind. We're talking about what? A mindset shift, folks. A mindset shift, right? Speak to yourself like a coach, not a critic. Coach yourself up, right? You do it for others. You can call somebody and somebody, hey man, what's going on? You give them an encouraging word. You got to be able to flip and do it to yourself. Think about it. If you have it in you to be able to give an encouraging word to somebody else, it stands to reason that you should be able to give those same encouraging words to yourself. But why is that not the case? Is that just human nature? Why are we less likely to believe those things when it comes to us? Because we're our biggest critic. That's just a default system we have as humans, and we have to learn to overcome that. We have to learn to overcome that. Just the sheer nature of being a human, you think less of yourself than you probably would of someone else. That's when you have things like envy. I won't go as far as to say it's jealousy, but look, you can tell somebody else, hey man, you good, you'll be all right. But then you tell yourself, man, hey, you ain't this or you ain't that. So those are things you want to think about. Start talking to yourself like a coach and not like a critic. And what else can you do? You can encourage. You can reframe. You can refocus. I repeat. Encourage yourself. Reframe the situation. Refocus. Force yourself to reframe it. Like that's part of the exercise. Okay, how do I reframe this? Because I'm sitting here not giving myself grace about this situation. I want to force myself to reframe it. The same way you would tell somebody else, look at it like this, fam. But think of it like this. And then refocus. Encourage it. Okay, got to get hyped. Reframe it. Let me switch it. And then refocus. Because sometimes we can be so locked in on something for so long that we have to take a step back to refocus and say, okay, let me look at this again. All right, let me take a fresh look at this. And that gives you a whole different scenario for something that can work for you. And also, too, progress is better than perfection. That perfection is almost a word that shouldn't be in the dictionary because it gives you the idea that it can happen. Maybe it can happen on the game. Maybe it can happen in some cases with a sport. But perfection in life every day is just not realistic because these goals that we set, but the progress is where it's at. Are you making progress? Are you moving forward? And again, that progress may not be in the way that you set it out to be, when you start on this journey, but that's why you got to give yourself some grace. Let me remind you again, got to give yourself some grace, right? Give yourself some grace. You owe yourself that, right? Give yourself the same grace that you would give others. You can give it to others. Oh, it's cool, fam. Okay, it's cool. I'm going to let that ride. Oh, you're going to be okay. It's all right. But then when it comes to yourself, you won't do it. So let's do a weekly challenge. What can we do this week? All right. This is Monday, start off a good week. The mindful check is this, right? Just to check in. Each time you feel frustrated with yourself, pause and ask this question. Would I say this to someone I care about? Then extend the same grace. The way you may be like, oh, I'm so upset with myself, I'm mad. Would you say that to somebody you really cared about? No, you wouldn't. I could say right now you wouldn't. You'd be like, no, you'll try to figure out a way to look at it there. I got my brother, Ezra Bell, Grand Rising fam in the building as well. Good morning, brother. Hope you're doing well. I know you're making your moves, reaching out to these communities and putting in a positive word, and it's going to be great, man. It's going to continue to happen. We're getting through this summer. We're going to build up to this school year, and you're going to keep it rocking, brother. So you just keep going. See, I'm extending grace to him that I really mean. I really do, because he's one of the people I care about everybody in this timeline. But I got to catch myself. Now, would I talk to myself like that? Probably initially not. I have to come back and work on it a little bit, but I think it's important. I got to extend myself the same grace I extended him. Ezra, your timing was perfect for me to be able to give myself a self-evaluation. And let grace guide your growth, folks. Let the grace guide you. Again, early on in this presentation, I said grace, giving yourself grace does not remove accountability. It does not tell you not to continue to pursue your goals, because accountability is important, right? But I'm saying in that process, you got to be like, oh, boy, all right, man, you good. Okay, take a break. Encouragement, refocus, you know what I'm saying, and get back in it. You can do that, right? As Bell says, yes, sir, we locked in. I know you locked in, brother. We locked in indeed. We locked in as well. So with that being said, folks, this wasn't going to be a long Monday motivation, and they may be getting around this time pretty soon. But the reality is that I wanted to pass that on. Give yourself some grace, the same grace you would give to others. Got Dwayne Willie representing. Good morning, good brother. Morning to you, brother. How you doing? Going way back, way back. Got Joey in the building. Today's video is definitely hitting home, Lindsay. I'm currently undergoing everything you just said from a personal and from a healthy standpoint. So let me talk about you real quick, brother. We're going to finish on you. Joey, you give so much to others. Joey always shows up. Joey's always available. And I think we have to realize sometimes, Joey, and I'm speaking to you specifically, and also the people on this timeline, is that when you give so much to others, you got to remind yourself, one, it lets you know what your capacity is, in my view, but also you got to also know that what do you have for yourself? Okay. I used to train with our security detail when I worked for the governor. So you got to always have a little bit left in case it go down, right? Ezra Bell says, well, what he say? Let grace guide my growth. Yes, sir. I got Chad in the building. Good morning, brother. Step up and step back. Thanks for the wisdom. You welcome, brother. But Joy, I just want to say this: when I would train with them, when I would go run with the security detail, because I used to be on the governor's detail, and I would try to race them at the very end. He said, no, you got to always have a little bit left. So what I want to say to you, Joey, is you give so much of yourself to others. And I would never tell you not to do that, but just be mindful of the fact that, one, of what your capacity is. You give so much of yourself. And I think that probably if you kind of moved away and gave less of yourself, and I don't have any particular example to give, people will be shocked because they're so used to you being and giving. But if you're saying right now, man, shoot, I got things I got to work on. Hey, man, it's okay to say I got to pull back a little bit to work on me. And be okay with people not necessarily understanding because we're so used to what we see and what people present. So that was just on my heart. Hey, I got a great group of people coming here. Everybody, we're going to be okay. We're going to be okay. And if you got to be reminded, look at what you've done, what you've accomplished, and where you are right now, and continue to have those goals for yourself. Continue to give yourself grace. So with that being said, guys, this is Lindsay House with SPS. I'm going to see you next time. Peace out.